What's up, ladies and gents? This is KSigKid coming at you with another Overwatch video. That's right, today we have a monster top 5 Overwatch video for you. So if you enjoyed this video, go ahead and smack that like button and subscribe to the channel. So I don't have hundreds of hours into Overwatch, I definitely don't, but I think that's exactly what makes a video like this pretty good to do on my channel, because I'm relatively new to playing Overwatch. Last night I was grinding for a while in order to get up to level 25 so I can do the competitive play. So I definitely don't have 100 hours into it. I think I have 130 matches under my belt, a handful of hours into the game, more than a handful of hours obviously, to get that many matches in. You had to play for a little while, but I don't have hundreds and hundreds. I haven't prestiged my character or anything like that. But what I have done is tried out pretty much every character. I can't really think of any character that I haven't tried. And what I can tell you is that I found that there are definitely some characters that are significantly easier to play as, especially whenever you're a new player to this game. And I think that's why it's pretty good to show on my channel, because we do have a lot of Destiny players here, and a lot of those Destiny players are probably curious about Overwatch. I happen to have a few friends that have picked up Overwatch, and they've tried out some things, and they're saying, oh man, you know, this maybe isn't right for me. And it's because I'm watching them, and they're playing some of the trickiest and most technical characters in the game. These characters that we have on this top 5 list here, they are definitely not that. I have definitely succeeded with these characters, and like I said, I don't have hundreds of hours into the game, so if I'm able to succeed with them, chances are you'll be able to too. And I think these are just some of the really good starter ones to get into. And what we're going to do is we're going to show the characters, we're going to say a little bit what they're about, their special abilities, and how to kind of utilize them to your most effective ability. Because that's what you want. You want to be able to go into the game and feel like you're contributing. So let's get started with our top 5 list, and number 5. Starting at number 5, we have everybody's favorite ape, or gorilla, or scientist Winston. That's right, Winston. So even though Winston is maybe listed in the game as a little bit trickier of a character to use, I feel like that's probably not actually the case. Obviously, to be a high-tier, high-level Winston, you have to be really, really good, but I just don't buy that he's a 2-star difficulty out of 3. Because the thing is, with his gun, his Tesla cannon that he has, it's pretty much as auto-targeting as you can possibly get. Basically, just hold down that trigger, you have ammo up to 100 charges, and it just ticks down as you hold down and fire off that gun. And chances are, if an enemy is around and close to you, you'll be able to hit them and tick off damage. Now the problem is that this damage that he does with that Tesla cannon is really not that strong. So don't expect to go into one-on-one engagements and just beat down the high-level tanks that are around. What I really liked was, with Winston, he was actually my first character that I tried, and I did the AI training modes with Winston, and it was just an absolute cakewalk. With his massive HP pool of 500 plus some armor at the end of that, he's really got a lot of beef to him, a lot more than a character like Tracer, who has a whopping 150 hit points. So you're able to stay around in the battle for a lot longer with Winston, but again, I wouldn't challenge tanks one-on-one with him. What you do have is a nice mobility jump, and that's going to help you just get around the map really quickly and get yourself out of trouble. You can also jump and hop, and whenever you're hopping in the air, reload your Tesla cannon. So that's a pretty nice way to kind of reload cancel your reload, because you're not going to be doing anything when you're jumping anyway. Also, if you happen to land on or near an enemy with that jump, you will deal out some damage, but it's nothing that's absolutely major or not. Now, we're using a super right here, and even though you turn into a massive mutant rampaging ape, unfortunately the main thing for this super is pushing enemies away. It's really not a high damaging super, as opposed to one that's all about the knockback, so just something to keep in mind. It's pretty nice though, because whenever you pop it, your health is going to double up to 1,000, and basically you're going to regenerate all of your health whenever you pop that super. So you can use it a little bit defensively. Whenever you're getting low on life, go ahead and pop it and just start going to town. Your super jump ability is going to cool down significantly faster, so if you really like that, if you really like jumping around the map, feel free to pop your ultimate and then just go to town with that. Even if you're dead, you can get back into the fray, especially if your point is getting contested and going to overtime. You can pop your ultimate and just start jumping all the way back in, because Winston's pretty quick as far as getting back into the fray of battle. Finally, his barrier is pretty much the main thing that's going to help you pretty much transition your Winston game into something that's pretty deadly, because whenever you pop that barrier, enemies can't shoot through it, but you can. And you have to get pretty close to your enemies for that Tesla cannon, so if you happen to jump in and then pop that barrier, keep the barrier between you and your enemy, and you'll be able to hit them while they're not able to hit you. Obviously, your barrier doesn't have infinite health or anything like that, so it could break and it doesn't stay out for minutes upon minutes upon minutes of time. But it's going to be good enough to at least get significant damage on your opponent, and that's going to help you just rack up some of those kills. So I really like Winston's combination of, not really needing to aim, having a massive HP pool, and that barrier, along with the jumping and defensive ability that he has. You can see right here, I'm going to pop my ultimate and take care of Torbjorn's turret. And there goes the Junkrat as well. So you've got some ability, you've got a few tricks up your sleeve. Winston really isn't that bad of a character to get started on. Just don't expect yourself to be this massive killing machine with him, because his Tesla cannon is just a little bit weak. Coming in at number 4, we have Soldier 76. So whenever I started up this game and I saw Soldier 76, he looked like the most generic and unfun character to play of all of them. Whenever you compare Soldier 76 to all the other crazy and insane looking characters in the game, he seems extremely bland. And because of that, that bias kept me away from him. But once I started to use him, I really did enjoy him. Pretty much, his weapon is strong. It's a nice close to medium range type of weapon that deals out quick damage. Think of it like an auto rifle in Destiny. You can just go to town firing off headshots, because headshots are going to deal out more damage. But if you're not good enough to deal out headshots, like I'm not good enough to deal out headshots all the time, you can definitely make your way through by hitting body shots on an enemy. But it's a strong weapon, and it's a decent one, because it means that you don't have to get as close as you do with somebody like Winston. You can stay away, and staying away isn't a bad thing with Soldier 76, because you also have your own healing ability. So you've got a biotic field, and whenever you cast and throw down that yellow circle, whenever you're in it, you'll gain your health back. So you'll be able to regenerate your 200 hit points that you have, and that's a really nice thing. Being able to regenerate your hit points without having to go out and find the health packs is nice, and it doesn't just regenerate yours. You can definitely regenerate anybody on your team who happens to step into that circle. So Soldier 76 does have a little bit of team utility to go with that. And here you can see his super, which is pretty much an aimbot. Whenever you cast that super, enemies that are highlighted and targeted, as soon as you're pulling down the trigger, you're going to hit them. So it's pretty nice. You might be able to get some plays of the game if you happen to group up a bunch of enemies. You're going to be much better suited to killing the lower health enemies as opposed to tank enemies whenever you cast your ultimate, but it's still pretty useful no matter what. So we talked about his biotic field that has a cooldown, but his sprint ability does not have a cooldown. So you can always sprint with Soldier 76. You die, you start needing to run back into battle, sprint your entire way there. Whenever you get to battle, you'll still have your sprint accessible to you. The sprint's just a nice way to let Soldier 76 get back into battle. You don't have to worry too much about falling behind whenever you have that sprint ability. His final ability, though, that does have a cooldown is his Helix rocket. So this rocket lets you deal out a nice little quick burst to an enemy, just like we did right there, and it can deal off some nice chunk damage to an enemy. So if you happen to get good with it, you can fire off your shots from your pulse rifle, and then quickly fire off your Helix rocket and hopefully finish them off. That's a nice thing. Obviously the Helix rocket has a cooldown, so you can't use it all the time on every enemy. If you could, Soldier 76 would be ridiculously OP. So like I said, he seems bland, but that's just because he's pretty much your standard first-person shooter type character. He's got everything in his kit that you could possibly want. You're able to deal with enemies at a range, you have that nice little burst with your Helix rocket, and you have that biotic field that can regenerate your health. So Soldier 76 is not a bad choice at all to start picking as a character, especially if you're really familiar with the first-person shooter type of genre, which is what Overwatch is all about. Not a bad choice for our number 4 character. But number 3 we've got... At number 3 we've got Torbjorn. And I recognize that on the consoles, in the PC is a vastly different animal. On consoles, Torbjorn might be one of the most difficult and frustrating players to deal with, pretty much out of anybody. because those turrets are basically an extra enemy and an extra opponent that you have to deal with on the other team. They're not exactly the strongest things in the world, but they're quick, they auto-target onto you, and they are relentless. Relentless. So pretty much with Torbjorn, the number one thing that you want to do is find a place to put your turret, lay it down, and then swap to your hammer and start pounding it. You want to pound that turret until you get up to rank 2. Whenever it's at rank 2, you're pretty much in good shape. The turret's going to be able to have 300 hit points. It should be able to survive enough. It should deal out enough damage. You're going to get a ton of kills off of those turrets. In fact, with these final top 3 characters, chances are you'll find yourself getting the play of game more often than not with these characters. They are definitely some of the most seen characters, and definitely the ones that are most able to get those plays of the game. Because you don't even have to be around or anywhere near your turret, it's still going to deal out the damage, it's going to target onto the enemy, and it's going to fire off the shots. You'll get a lot of kills. My turret right here is just sitting around the corner. Every time an enemy comes out here, my turret is instantly firing. And if you happen to have your turret and it sees an enemy, feel free to pop your ultimate, and that's going to rank your turret up to rank 3. It's going to give it 800 hit points, and aside from you being able to fire off your rivet gun in a different manner, that thing is just going to mow through all of the enemies. And again, that's where you're going to be seeing a lot of your plays of the game. So I barely talked about Torbjorn yet, but he does have this rivet gun that you can shoot at a distance, and if an enemy happens to get in closer, you can use your alternate fire and treat it a little bit like a shotgun. So Torbjorn's got a lot of tools in his kit, and you can see that I'm able to get a few kills with that rivet gun over there, while my turret's over here and he's just doing some stuff. If your turret happens to lose some of its hit points, feel free to pull out your hammer, so swap over to your hammer and smack the turret around a little bit more, and you'll be able to regenerate its health. The last thing that you're probably wondering is what I'm doing with all of this yellow stuff that's just circling the arena. We didn't see that on the other characters. Well, whenever somebody dies, Torbjorn's able to pick up this yellow pack that's down there, and it's pretty much scraps. With those scraps, I can then create armor for myself or my teammates. So what I'm doing is whenever I see those scraps out there, I'm just picking them up and I'm just throwing armor all around the battlefield. I'm picking it up if I need it, my teammates are picking it up whenever they see it. It's just a nice little support ability. So not only are you deadly with those turrets, not only can you deal out damage with this rivet gun, but you can also add armor to the battlefield. It's crazy. On a defensive point, Torbjorn is really just a monster, really able to just lock down one entire portion of the field, and whenever you have multiples of them, like we do here, it is a nightmare, and I can only imagine that the team we were going against right here was extremely frustrated. We've got 3 Torbjorns here on my screen right now, so they have to deal with our entire team, plus 3 different turrets. That is almost unfair. Like I said, on consoles, it's a little bit different than it is on the PC because of the way that aiming and the control scheme is, but on consoles, you'll definitely want to pick up Torbjorn, make sure you smack those turrets, level them up, and then go to town. You're a dwarf, but you've got some power in you. Anyway, that was Torbjorn at number 3. Moving on to our top 2, we have Bastion at number 2. So Bastion at number 2 is probably a little bit of a surprise. I would imagine a lot of people probably thought that Bastion would be number 1. And let's just say that Bastion can be extremely cheap. And you'll see that right in my first few clips that we have right here. What Bastion does is he turns from his sentry form into a turret form. And with that turret, he's got a Gatling gun, which is extremely strong. So we talked about Torbjorn and him being able to set up turrets, and those turrets didn't really deal out all that much damage. That is not the case with Bastion at all. His Gatling gun absolutely mows through and decimates every single character in the game. If you hit an enemy with this, you're going to melt them. You're even able to tear through Reinhardt's shields. So any character in the game that's in front of you, you're going to melt. Now, the one thing that you can't do whenever you're in this turret form is you can't move. So you are extremely stationary whenever you're right here. But that doesn't even matter. On some places in the game, like right here, I was able to just sit. And I got a 20 kill streak from sitting here. Like I said, extremely cheap. but that's just the way that it is with this character. You can get some monster kill streaks, and nobody's really able to challenge you. Nobody's going to get in behind me over here, so any enemy that's in front of me, I can just go ahead and mow down with my Gatling gun. They really aren't able to get through because they just simply do not have the health or ability to really deal out the damage there. And if somebody happens to come in getting closer to me, I have a long enough sightline where I can pop myself back into sentry form and then run away potentially. So that's the really good stuff with Bastion. And what am I missing? Oh yeah, you can self-heal. So even after I mow through everybody, even if the entire enemy team really has started whittling away at my health, and I'm down to my last 5 hit points or so, after they're all gone, I can simply regenerate my health. And then still stay in the exact same spot. Again, it's this combination of abilities that makes Bastion extremely tricky and extremely dangerous to deal with. He's basically got a weapon pretty much like Soldier 76 whenever I'm in sentry form, but in turret form, forget about it. Nothing even comes close to comparing with the damage that you can put out right here, so he's a really strong character. You really don't have crazy mobility with him, but it doesn't really matter. You just don't need it. You simply don't need it with Bastion. Finally, we do have his ultimate, which is whenever he turns into a roving tank, and he starts shooting off bombs at the opponent. And you're going to see the plays of the game with this weapon, and whenever you're in your turret form, Bastion is one of those characters that is probably scoffed at a little bit, but if you're a new character to the game, feel free to use it. And finally, we're going to move on to our number 1 character. Our number 1 character for beginners is Reaper. That's right, Reaper. Reaper officially owns my highest kills of the game still, and I got that whenever I was level 5 with Reaper. He is pretty amazing. His Hellfire shotguns that he has are extremely strong. They can really put the hurt on your tank enemies, and if you're not a tank enemy, if you're somebody like a Tracer, forget it, you're just done. Whenever you're in close and dealing out damage against enemies in close with these Hellfire shotguns, you're just going to melt their health away. Now don't be shy about aiming for the head as well, because that's going to deal out some critical hit damage, and that's even stronger obviously. And whenever you cast your Death Blossom like I'm doing right here, you're going to find yourself getting the play of the game more often than not. It deals out 600 damage to enemies that are all around, and if they're weaker enemies, if they're not tank enemies, they're going to die, and you're going to find yourself getting the play of the game. So Reaper is really nice, not to mention that he's got these strong shotguns that can deal out the damage to the enemies, but you've got this Wraith form, which I was using whenever I was really new to the game. I was using it to get in on enemies because you were completely invulnerable whenever you were in Wraith form, and you moved quicker. So I would pop my Wraith form, I would pretty much Wraith in, and then I would cast my Death Blossom and go to town and get the plays of the game. Reaper's really funny because I feel like I played better as Reaper whenever I didn't know anything about the different abilities and using all of his abilities and firing from a far distance away, which is not good. You really want to deal out the damage whenever you're in close. But I felt like whenever I didn't exactly know what I was doing with Reaper, I was playing with him even better. And to me, that's a staple for, a hero that would be really good for beginner players, because you don't need to know and use an entire kit in order to be just extremely deadly. He also has a teleport, which I still haven't really mastered or learned how to master all that much. It's really nice if you happen to see a Widowmaker or a turret sitting somewhere, you could teleport in behind there and then get in and start shooting them with your Hellfire shotguns. But it's a little bit slow on its startup, and enemies can see where you're about to spawn, so they can pretty much sit and wait and get ready to fire off their shots at you. So it's a little bit dangerous, but I think people that are really, really good with Reaper, they're probably able to use that Shadow Step really effectively. For me, it's more about those Hellfire shotguns in the Wraith form and Death Blossom. Now you probably noticed that there are some glowing orange and yellow orbs that are floating around. That's a part of Reaper's special ability. And once I noticed that, once I learned about that, that's where it took things to another level. So whenever enemies end up dying, they drop these orbs, and it doesn't matter if you kill them or not. Those orbs are there, and they're going to regenerate your health. So that's kind of a theme with things here. Things that can regenerate your health are really nice for new players. And whenever you've got your health up, you can go ahead and see all these enemies grouped up, hit your Death Blossom, and mow through the rest of the enemies. It's just not fair sometimes. So Reaper is definitely my choice for the #1 best character to use if you're new to Overwatch. I'd pick him up, I'd get in close, I'd use my extremely strong Hellfire shotguns, I'd shoot him in the head, they would fall down, you'll get the play of the game just like I'm gonna get the play of the game right here. So this is my list. This is my top 5 list. Again, relatively new to Overwatch. I think it's a great game. It's a lot of fun. It's a nice game to be able to swap up between Destiny, playing some Overwatch, playing some Destiny. It's nice. You know, I swapped my controls around. You probably noticed some of that. My controls aren't exactly sitting the same way as yours are on a console. But this is just the way that's a little bit comfortable to me, and Overwatch is a lot of fun to play. These are some of my top 5 favorite characters to play so far, and that's because I'm still relatively new and I stink at the game. But I did pretty well right here. So top 5 lists are always controversial and always deal out a great bit of conversation amongst them. Is there a character that's missing from this list that should be on there? Would you reorder the list at all? Anyway, guys and gals, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, smack that like button and subscribe to the channel. Check out these awesome videos. Good luck with your matches, and I'll see you around in Overwatch. I'm not a monkey, I'm a scientist.